All right, another harness video. This one looks pretty overwhelming. I really want to document this because always trying something different, always trying something new. And in this case, this harness is for Chris Nazzaro of Front Street. If you guys don't know who Chris Nazzaro is, pretty rad driver from New York. Front Street Drift, if you know, you know. But he also has this FCRX7 that he's been restoring, and it's a beautiful car, 6-port turbo, super clean car, and I really want to pass the favor over to him and get him right with a proper setup. So we talked, we figured out what he wanted, and we just banged this out. So this is for a Link Monsoon G4X, my favorite ECU. So as you can see, that's the connector there, connector A. And if we follow along here on the harness, here we have our chassis connect. So this portion just provides like coolant temp to the cluster, fuel pump signal, and power to different parts of the harness. This one's pretty cool. This is actually a CAN termination. So while I say that, we have a little sub harness here for Chris. He's planning on running a CAN lambda and a CAN gauge at the same time. So this harness is unique. I made it for him. So essentially what it does is it will plug right in over here, like so, and he can just provide power and ground via his chassis. So the red wire is power, black wire is ground, and with the power and ground, he can plug in his CAN gauge and his CAN lambda over here. Now, the reason why I had to make a harness, in order to properly use the CAN lambda, you have to wire in a 22 UF resistor. So that was wired inside this harness over here, so his CAN lambda can operate properly. If you don't have that wired in, it just really doesn't work. I've tried all sorts of different things. I put R&D into all this stuff, so that's cool. And we're gonna follow up here on the harness. We got a boot here. This is experimental, but this is a boot for an FDRX7. And over here, we have our boost control. So he opted in with this 3-port MAC valve that he got directly from Link. And essentially, super simple. You plug that, I think I have that in upside down, I can't even tell. But yeah, you just plug that in. It's tough with one hand, but you guys get the gist. That plugs in over there, and then bam, boost control. Over here, we have electric fan control, 1-speed, and I provided this harness for him so he could wire it up. Essentially, you just wire it up to your fan relay. It's just 2 wires. It doesn't matter which way you just pin one to 85 and one to 86, and you're good to go, and it will trigger your fan relay to turn on your fans. We're gonna move further up here in the harness. You guys have seen this familiar sight, nothing too crazy. GM coolant temp sensor, we have our grounds, we have EV14 style injectors for injector dynamics injectors, GM coolant temp and intake temp sensor, stock crank angle sensor, and then yeah, we provided extra IO in case you wanted to add some additional temp sensors, like a combined oil temp and oil pressure sensor. So that's all good. One thing I really like here is he actually opted into using a Ford style TPS. So that right there, if you're curious about the part number. And that literally will just plug in right over here onto the harness for him. So I made it extra long to just take into account for the throttle body placement. And lastly, we have our ignition sub harness. So this is this thing right over here. It looks a little weird, but that will just plug in over there, interface, and everything's all labeled. So like leading front, we have leading 2 and whatnot. So this is for IGN-1A ignition coils. Right here, if you look, there's this blue little connector. This is actually your tachometer signal on an FC, so it's plugged into the stock trailing coil connector. And then lastly, we have power to the entire harness over here. So that provides power to the entire ignition sub harness. The grounds are interfaced through this connector over here. So the grounds are already on that engine harness. And that's pretty much it. That is the Chris Nazzaro engine harness. And if you guys are interested, feel free to email me or message me on Facebook if you want something similar. Everything's all custom, made in-house with high quality connectors. But yeah, hopefully this gives you guys an idea of what you can really do with a 13B setup, whether you're NA, ITBs, turbo, 6-port turbo, turbo 2. I pretty much do it all. So yeah.